What's up guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about a stock that I've covered on the channel before, but now I think that this has hit rock bottom and is looking up. This has some major institutional investors buying up shares recently, such as BlackRock, Morgan Stanley and Cathie Wood's ARK Invest. So let's talk about NNDM. Nano-Dimension. This company is at the cutting edge of technology, and the company is now trading at a price that values the company at little more than its cash value, which provides a rare opportunity in the market. If you've been watching my channel over the past few months, then you will have seen the huge gains that we made recently. Over the past few months, we've seen 9x gains on ILS since my first ILS video. We've had 10x gains on Shiba Inu from the time of my first Shiba Inu video back in May when nobody else was talking about this. If you watch my recent Petrotech videos, I covered the stock a few weeks ago at only 11 cents, telling you about a potential buyout offer coming. This stock reached as high as 34 cents just a few days later, and even now it's a bargain at only 18 cents. The board of directors currently has an offer on the table to buy the shares at 74 cents per share. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button now and stop missing out on these huge money making stocks. Turn on notifications and find out about these stocks as soon as I make a video, instead of finding my video after the stocks have made huge gains. It costs you nothing, but it could make you a lot of money. This is not financial advice. I encourage everyone to do your own due diligence. Now let's dive into it. So who are Nano Dimension? Nano Dimension is a provider of intelligent machines and fabrication of additively manufactured electronics. AME. AME technology is a unique technique to print HiPEDs, high performance electronic devices, layer by layer from scratch. HiPEDs are electronic boards with complex geometrics that cannot be produced in the traditional PCB manufacturing process. The technology injects simultaneously dielectric, polymer ink and conductive silver ink from a special printer called the Dragonfly LDM. AME technology presents significant advantages over traditional manufacturing processes, for example in printed antennas. It quickly adjusts to the required size of the pads and their distances between layers, hence reducing production time. It enables the printing of several types of antennas as one unit in a single print step, unlike the traditional way in which antennas are assembled from multiple parts prepared by various technologies. It enables varied components to be printed on the same batch, which accelerates the optimization process. The AME technology allows for multi-layer boards to be created by providing up to 52 layers with connections between layers. This is a vast improvement from traditional technology which provides single-sided and double-sided PCBs. This technology also allows the flexible circuitry. The global flexible circuit industry recorded revenue of 13 billion in 2019 and is expected to grow at a rate of 11% for the next few years. Demand for this will surely further increase with the need for lighter, smaller devices with greater functionality and wearable tech. The company's main product is the Dragonfly. The lights-out digital manufacturing system is the industry's only comprehensive additive manufacturing platform for around-the-clock 3D printing of electronic circuitry. The precision platform uniquely integrates an extremely precise inkjet deposition printer with dedicated nano inks and optimized 3D software to print electronic circuits such as printed circuit boards, antennas, capacitors and sensors. This is state-of-the-art technology. This is very much the technology of the future, but today. In my opinion, their technology is so advanced that the market that they are aiming at hasn't even got to a stage of needing their technology yet. What sets Nano Dimension aside from other operators in the 3D printing space is that they are specifically focused on the niche of 3D printed electronics. This is a market that is expected to be worth somewhere between 2.3 and 3.9 billion by 2026. So I've just come across this article which I think is a fantastic read. The company is sitting on a giant pile of cash worth $1.4 billion, but is slowly bleeding this cash in the absence of any significant revenue. Right now, not enough customers are finding applications. However, there are 5 possible triggers that could make the stock explode. Nano Dimension is slowly burning through its big 1.4 billion pile of cash, but could at any moment reach an inflection point that could lead to a big jump in the stock's price overnight. Now, since this article was published, NNDM have spent some of this cash very wisely, which I will speak about in a moment. And they have just released their latest financials in the past few days, so I will look at this in a few minutes too. Investors who closely follow Cathie Wood know that she is fond of Nano Dimension. She has gradually built up positions in the stock and now has ownership of over 7.6% of the company. Since May, her two funds made more purchases, but starting from August 30th, the ARC Q fund started again to purchase the stock. This raises the question of whether or not now is a good time to buy. And as we can see, Cathie has been buying ever since. Cathie has added to her NNDM position every day so far this week, as well as adding more shares last month too. Now, although it is widely regarded that 3D printing is the future, this is seen as a very risky sector to be investing in. And while there are some very good companies in the 3D sector, NNDM have little to no competition. As it says here, while having a monopoly in an industry usually is beneficial for the company, it could also indicate that no other company believes in the potential of additive manufacturing of PCBs. As I have said before, Nano Dimension's technology is so advanced that it may take years for real-world applications to come to light. In order to justify today's valuation of 1.5 billion, the company has to sell 400 to 500 machines every year, assuming that the price of the printers and inks remain stable and that healthy margins can be reached. A huge issue here is that only 60 machines have been sold since 2017. Main customers and potential customers are in the defense sector, the automotive industry, the medical industry, the aerospace industry, and research institutes. Now, it's worth mentioning here that we are now nearly 2 years into a situation where a lot of companies are very reluctant to invest heavily in equipment when there is a huge chance of lockdowns and restrictions that could impact the use of these machines. Let's face it, no company is going to spend $400,000 on a machine if they think that staff might end up working from home. In my opinion, the past 2 years are not a true reflection of the demand for these types of machines. Bear in mind too, these are all industries that are currently either completely focused on other things right now. Research institutes and medical industry, that goes without saying. The airline and aerospace industries have been one of the hardest hit over the past 2 years. The real future market size for this industry is rather difficult to estimate. Nano Dimension estimates the market size by comparing it to traditional 3D printing. Traditional 3D printing started to slowly gain traction at the beginning of the 90s, but only really took off after 2010. Nano Dimension believes that additive manufacturing of electronics is now where traditional 3D printing was in 1995. But it also thinks that this time it will be quicker to become mainstream as companies nowadays are used to using 3D printing and are more open to these types of technology changes. Companies are solely using the printer for prototyping, but the holy grail for Nano Dimension will be the use of its printers in mass production. So there are a number of potential triggers, and this is very interesting because I feel some of these are actually highly likely. Yov Stern doesn't believe that revenues and profit will gradually increase going forward. For the foreseeable future, most likely revenues will stay low. However, Stern also mentioned that he is confident that there will be an inflection point, which when reached will lead to massive price increase of the stock, similar to an FDA approval for a biotech company. Now, if you've been watching the markets in recent weeks, we've seen a number of biotech companies go parabolic. Even this week, we've seen Biofrontera gain over 100% in one day, and Longeveron gain over 1000%, going from $3 up to a crazy $45 in less than a week. So these gains can happen very quickly for stocks that have been slowly bleeding for months, which Nano Dimension has been doing. So the first potential trigger is acquisitions. Yov Stern has spoken about this before. The main purpose of raising $1.4 billion is to acquire complementary companies that can either give better access to customers or help advance the technology capabilities of the company. And he is not willing to overpay, and so far meaningful acquisitions are only slowly progressing. The second trigger is operational advantages. Now this is very interesting, and for me this is the most likely. Nano Dimension's 3D printers cannot keep up the status quo products, but going forward the production will become cheaper, faster, less error prone and more flexible. This point is similar to how 2020 seemed to be an inflection point for electric vehicles, as EVs finally were able to compete with regular cars and soon be even better than them. With some delay, in the fourth quarter, Nano Dimension will release a new and better version of their Dragonfly line, and this is something that the company have just done. I will look at this in some detail later. But first, let's look at the inflection point for EV companies in 2020. It's easy to talk about Tesla here, but let's not forget about how this trend has continued with the likes of Rivian, Lucid, NIO, and soon POLESTAR too. In late 2019, Tesla was trading at under $50. 2 years later, it's worth more than $1,100. The same can be said for NIO. This was trading at only $1 before running up to over $60 in little more than 14 months. And this comes after years of downtrends and moving sideways. The next trigger is onshoring, bringing back production to the US and Europe. I think this is less likely, but it is possible. At the very least, Western companies would invest more in production machinery, of which at least a part of this could be in 3D printers for PCBs. But for me, trigger number 4 is the most likely to drive a sudden spike in the share price. If an industry-leading company such as Tesla would place a sizable order or enter into some kind of partnership with NNDM, it would send out strong message to Tesla competitors and even to companies from other industries. The order or partnership would be a commercial proof of concept, which will certainly make the company's vision more trustworthy. So let's take into account here that the company have only sold about 70 machines to date. Let's compare this with Tesla. For years, Tesla were selling very small numbers of cars, but that has taken off over the past couple of years, and so has their share price, as we just looked at. Then just last month, Hertz, the car rental company, announced plans to buy 100,000 Teslas. This pushed Tesla's share price up over 25% in just a few days, which doesn't sound like much until you put a dollar valuation on it. Tesla's valuation gained over $200 billion in just a few days, so these types of announcements can be game-changing. The final trigger here is environmental protection, and I think that this is self-explanatory. 3D printing uses less energy, reduces material waste, and most importantly gets rid of most of the necessary transportation. The conclusion here is that the company has a big pile of cash, and this cash is responsible for around 90% of the company's current market capitalization. Although there is a risk here, there is always the chance of reaching an inflection point and winning big, and I fully agree with this. Since the time of this article was written, the share price of Nano Dimension had continued to fall, and the latest financials have just been released. At the moment, the current market cap of Nano Dimension is only $1.27 billion, while the company has $1.1 billion in cash reserves. In fact, between cash and all other assets, the total assets are over $1.5 billion. With little more than $28 million in liabilities, so it's easy to see why Cathie Wood has been loading up recently on Nano Dimension. Right now, this stock is trading at a discount to its asset value. So if you believe in this industry and this technology, then right now this is a huge bargain. The cash burn rate for Nano is not extreme, so as long as they invest wisely, they have more than enough cash to last for several years. Looking at market beat, we can see that Nano is currently in the lower quarter of its 50-day range and just bounced off rock bottom of its 52-week range this week, which suggests huge upside potential. The market cap of the company is only about $1.27 billion with average volume of over 16 million shares. Institutional investors here own over 33% of the company, and they have been buying up shares during the year. This includes BlackRock and Morgan Stanley amongst others. Interestingly, ARK Invest is not listed here, but further down the page we can see that 135 institutional investors and hedge funds held shares of Nano Dimension. The most heavily invested institutions are ARK Invest, with shares totaling $134.91 million, State Street with $37 million and BlackRock with $27.9 million. And with Cathie investing heavy into Nano Dimension again this week, I feel that the time is very near for this stock to bounce back strong. So guys, that brings us to the end of the video. If you've watched all the way through, then hit that like button. It really helps the channel out a lot. There's a lot that I did not get to cover in this video today, such as a detailed look into the company's financials that were just released, nor did I get a chance to look at the new Dragonfly machine or the recent acquisitions. If you want to know more about this and want to hear my thoughts on the technology or the acquisitions or the future for this company in general, then drop a comment down below. If you're new, hit the subscribe button and bell notification. Follow me on Twitter and I'll catch you in the next one.